Hello and welcome to TidyX. TidyX is a screencast where we try to explain how to use code and other tools and try to make it more approachable. So we're going to do a different one. So normally we're explaining Tidy Tuesday code, but today we're actually going to be explaining how to use Git, which is a common version control tool that's used across programming. But actually, Patrick, why don't you introduce yourself as well? I got ahead of myself.
Yeah, I'm Patrick Ward, and you could find me on Twitter at OSPPatrick. So I guess this is different than our normal TidyXs, where we actually go over some Tidy Tuesday code. So maybe this is like episode 7B.
Yeah, exactly.
Or does it get its own eepisode? What do you think?
We'll figure that out when we post it. So
yeah.
Be surprised for everybody. Well, I guess if you're listening to this, you already know. But
so we're going to go over Git today, and most people are familiar with GitHub. Usually, if they wanted to maybe take our code or take some of the code from the stuff that people share on Tidy Tuesday, they would go to those person's GitHub page and extract that code. Why would someone use Git, or what's the difference between Git and GitHub?
All right, so it's commonly confused. The two are commonly confused. So Git is the open source tool that actually powers GitHub. So Git is a tool that does version control. So it's a source code management or source code manager. So there are other tools that exist like Subversion and other tools, but Git is a command line tool that allows you to version your files. So if you've ever been working on a project, right, and you've written it, you're fairly confident, son, you go, all right, project, the best project ever, final, and you save it and you hand it off to your supervisor, to your PhD supervisor, whoever, and you're all right, I'm done, here's my final project. Inevitably they come back with some edits, don't they?
Always.
So now you go back and you edit your file, and now you're confident it's completed, but you don't want to accidentally delete or overwrite your original final because you thought you were done then. So you name it My Awesome Project Final 2. And then you submit it again to your supervisor, whomever, and they come back to you inevitably with more edits, or you find issues with it, or you ask your significant other to take a look at it. Point being, you're never actually done with anything, even if you think you are.
Right.
or you think you're done, you put it down for a few months, and then you come back to it and find, I need to make a change there. So Git is the tool that will make it so you don't have to do that. So what Git does is it gives you a command line tool that you can say, okay, take a snapshot of this file as I wrote it, and it'll record that for you, which means then when you go back and make edits, and then you're like, oh shoot, a couple months down the line you realize that you didn't have wanted to have made that change. What you can do is you can use Git and roll everything back to that original version.
Yep.
So it's incredibly powerful. It happens. Git is used a lot for source code management. It makes it a lot easier to do that sort of stuff. So I just wanted to discuss a little bit on how to work from Git. Supposing that you're jumping into a project that already is running on Git, and you just want to make a couple edits to it. And so I think that's the most common use case that I've seen for a lot of people.
Especially if you're working across, if you're working with people on a project where maybe I come in and edit something, or I write a code and push it up, and then you edit something. You can use Git for version control and push out your edits with a little note that says, whatever changed X, Y, and Z within the code or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it just makes it a lot easier to work with teams. That way we're not just emailing files and things get out of date. It's all in one location. Yeah. So what we're going to do today is, so we have this TidyX repository. And so this is where we've been dropping all of the code from our TidyX podcast or screencast. So we've got this Tidy Tuesday Explain file. This has all of our code from all of our other episodes. So what we're going to do is we're going to create so we're going to clone this down and add a new folder for explaining programming tools. So this is the first time. So, you're listening to something fun here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to open up my terminal. So I guess first step is to download Git. So Git has their little button there, so you can follow their instructions. I already have it installed, so I'm not gonna do that. Just follow the instructions they have. It's very, very straightforward.
You'll have a few extra steps if you're on a Mac up front of getting it going. A few things that you'll have to do,
but it shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah.
So all right, so I'm gonna edit our repository here to add in the new folder. So the first step is to get the URL. So you can see it's up here, but it actually has some new syntax that you need to have there. So let's copy that in and open up our terminal. All right. So the way that if you're working on a repo that exists on GitHub or really anywhere, so you could be working in a company that has remote network drives, and they can be stored, or Git repos can be stored there as well. So the way you get those copied to your local computer is you use the command git clone. So clone is saying make a copy of the repository and bring it to your current directory. And then I'm going to just paste it. And so that didn't copy properly. But I can just type it in. So let's clear that out. Git https://github.com/thebioengineer, which is my Git username, and then TidyX, and then we add the special .git there at the very end of that URL there, and so that's gonna tell it that it's Git, and it's gonna clone it. So now it's cloning and it's grabbing all the files that exist on GitHub in the repo that I have and bringing it in locally. So now when I do an ls, I have this new, so ls is the bash term for list files in the current repository or folder that I'm in. So now I've got this new folder TidyX. So if I cd, so change directory into TidyX and do an ls, those are some additional tags to make it look prettier. I can see that, hey, I've got all the files that were on my remote folder here. So everything that exists here, I now have locally. So hey, all right. So now I want to be adding in the instructions, the basic instructions on how to work off of a project that already exists. So let's do make dir. So make a directory for programming tools explained. Right. So that matches the same format that we have for our Tidy Tuesday explained. So make that directory. And now I am going to, so I have pre-written up instructions for how to perform all these steps here, right? So we've done up to step 2, right? Copy it in. So now we're editing files. So now edit files can mean anything from you going into a file that already exists and making changes to it, or you're adding your own files to be put under control of Git. So I'm going to save this into the repository there. So into programming tools explained. Sorry, I pulled it off to the side there. Let's just save that. All right, so now when I do an ls into programming tools explained, I have this new starting from an existing repository.md. So let's just do a quick cd into programming tools. Do you have any questions, Patrick?
Nope, this is pretty cool. I think one of the nice parts about this is if someone were to do this, if they were to clone our repository using Git, every time we do a new screencast and add new script, they wouldn't need to then go to the GitHub page and download that. It would automatically be pushed into the repository that they've cloned, correct?
Correct. So the way, if you already have a project cloned and you're wanting to get all the updates that exist, the command that you actually use is git pull. So you're going to pull all the updates into your local copy here. So sorry, I just moved it into its own Git repository or folder. So I have a Git. So now if I do, if I cd up and I do a Git status, I can see, hey, Git noticed that I have this new folder with files in it called Programming Tools Explained, and it's not under version control right now. So Git does not automatically start tracking things for you, and it's not going to automatically put things. So there's a little bit of manual labor involved with this, but that means that you have a lot of control. So you can do a Git add dot, so that dot tells it to add everything that lives within this folder here. So now when we do this Git add, and then I do another Git status, see how it's like, hey, you've got this new file that exists, and here's the path that it lives in. So I know that now it's tracking it. So the next step I'm going to want to do is going to do a Git commit. So you can just run it like this, but it'll then bring up a text editor, because you always want to have meaningful messages when you commit any updates to your files. But the way that I like to do it is directly through the command line. So I'm going to say I'm adding instructions for working with Git on an existing repo. All right. So now when I do that, it's now taken a snapshot essentially of this file here. It's not pushed anywhere yet. It doesn't exist outside of my computer at this point. But now I'm ready. I've reviewed it. I'm ready to make this live for everyone else to take a look at. And I'm now going to want to push the changes that I made to now exist in my GitHub repository. They made it super simple to do that. All you do is git push. So now I'm running that. So now what my computer is doing, it's going, talking to GitHub and going, hey, I've got these new files. I want to push them up to GitHub. And it's going, okay, so it's now communicating. So now when I refresh my folder here, I've got this new file here, Programming Tools Explained, Git. And so this is exactly what we wanted to show here. So that is how you would add a file or make any edits to an existing GitHub repository and adding any files to it.
Cool.
Yeah.
There you go.
Alrighty. Well, thank you all for listening. Hopefully this is a quick little primer for how to use Git on an existing repository. My name's Ellis Hughes. You can find me on Twitter at Ellis_Hughes.
And I'm Patrick Ward, and you can find me on Twitter at OSPPatrick. And you can get in contact with the both of us with questions or other things you'd like to see explained at tidy.explained@gmail.com.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us, and continue to explore your world.
Ah.